All right. Welcome to the good stuff. Just as the sun sets over the ocean there with our new flag.
New flag, and potentially another new element.
And keep your eyes
starting
pinned.
to appear as we speak.
Look at that.
There we go.
Plane.
What I love about the plane is that it's also being lit up by the campfire. It's a very aggressive campfire.
That's how that goes.
It's got the same lighting effect.
Nice.
Otherwise, it would be pretty dark in the night sky.
For the audio-only people, you've really missed out this week. Anyway, this is the big episode 47, the biggest yet. Yeah, distracted by new
elements.
visual elements.
That's it.
Like very much a moon landing flag. Like not a lot of wind going on here.
It's minimal wind at the beach.
Well, it is actually. There's
Yeah.
barely anything going on over there. But all right, so today we had the pre-pod for the members,
members
for the friends
only.
of the pod.
We're the only members at the moment.
Yeah.
So.
I guess so. I think we said we're going to talk about AI taking your job. Will AI take my job?
Yeah.
And then trying to put some flesh on that bone. So obviously we've covered this topic a few times, but over the weekend there was a big announcement that Block, formerly Square, so Jack Dorsey's company, had announced a layoff of over 4,000 people, which 10,000 person company is just over 40%, flagging AI as a key reason why they were looking to let people go, which was interesting. I feel like this is the sort of thing that's been happening slowly for a while. Maybe this is one of those all at once moments where somebody says, you know what, we're going to bleed this out over 10 years, or we could just rip the band-aid off now and adjust ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So that caught my eye. I believe the stock price just jumped
16%.
on the news of this, which if anything, it's not going to discourage people from going down the same route. It's that you will be rewarded if you cut your head count, is the message that got out there. So what do we think of this? Is this a surprise? Is this kind of expected?
Yeah.
Obviously we'll put a bit of meat on the bone as we go through the conversation.
I think do you know, I'm going to say it's not unexpected, but was it 10,000 people working at Block? Was that right? I mean, they also had the Afterpay acquisition as well.
Yeah,
so
Block is a
all of that,
group of
stuff.
companies.
Yeah.
So you have Square.
There's a lot in there.
You have Cash App, which is one of the biggest financial apps in the world. It's not too dissimilar to a Wise or a small bank there.
Yeah.
And then you've got Afterpay. You have Tidal, which is a music streaming platform. So you also have a Spotify bundle. It's eclectic. It's a funny eclectic set of businesses in one chunk.
Yeah.
So, but where were you going with that? Were you about to say 10,000 people? They all do.
Yeah, to some degree. I mean, there's always surprise for me when I just see huge numbers of staff. I mean, we've talked about this in previous episodes of the pod. It was always very on brand for startups to raise a lot of money, and I'm not suggesting this was the case with Block, but it was just it was the known thing to do: raise a lot of money, keep hiring. That signals growth, and then investors can go and raise more money.
Yeah.
It just feels like that's the thing that was just right. A lot of ZERP era phenomena at play here as well.
Yeah.
Money chasing a lot of this stuff. So yeah, I don't know. Whenever I see 10,000, I mean, it reminds me when I used to work in banking back in the day, and it was 60,000 people worked at the bank that I worked at, and I just thought it's just a lot of people. And when I was there, I mean, this was a long time ago. When I was there, I used to just think there's an entire layer of staff here at my level that don't need to exist.
Yeah.
And that was back then. And I just would have thought a lot of those job functions could have been made more efficient over time. And I think we'll get into this, it's just because you can get rid of a job function doesn't mean there isn't more work to do.
Yeah.
So there is that that trade-off as well.
You know what it reminds me of? Because I think to a certain extent, scale begets scale. But it reminds me, sometimes we use a chart where we have two charts. One is scaling with technology, and one is scaling with people.
Yeah.
And it's just that, clearly these are tech companies, so they have people. I mean, 10,000 people, as I said, if you're running a music streaming platform and a bank and a payments processor and a successful financial app and a debt collection agency, what the fuck I have to pay.
Yeah, there's a lot there.
Kind of ends up being. Like, you look at it and you go, oh, they're doing pretty good for
Exactly.
10,000 people. Any of those, I feel like, would be
Yeah.
10,000 person companies almost on their own. But I think there's a point at which you've already got all the scale you needed from the tech, and then you're kind of just adding more people to coordinate more things, and because you're going wide at this point across like a big breadth of stuff, you just need a lot of people to coordinate that, because the person that comes in to do the job needs to fit somehow into this overwhelming like organization and hierarchy that's there, and you just end up with value destruction of like manager after manager, the managers that need to keep the managers in check to do the managing. And I think one of the big pushes that Jack had made very early, like this is maybe like a year or so ago, might even be a bit more, but like when he first started talking about Goose and bringing it into the organization, was that they were already trying to move to a much flatter, much more agile and efficient form of delivery, where they expected everybody to be using like AI tools in all parts of their jobs. And you can see that like that would start to collapse a lot of that hierarchy, where you don't need, like, even like the managers can do stuff without the workers, and the workers can communicate and manage stuff without the managers. So like every person almost becomes like free layers in that hierarchy. And so I think you start to see, and this kind of like mirrors like my experience as well working with these tools, where it's not that I don't do any work at the coalface. And it's not that I spend all my time just managing, and I don't spend like all my time being like a product manager or communicating stuff. It's like you do every role up and down the stack, and you do it multiple levels deep. And what you've really avoided is building like that structure and team, because you are effectively a 10-man team, if not more. And so it makes sense to me that if you applied that to a large organization, you suddenly get this massive flattening out, where you go, you know what, there's like whole levels here that we can do without it, even if you really did need them before, which I don't know enough about the internals of the company. I can imagine looking at like, you know, what happened when Elon took Twitter over there.
Yeah, exactly.
Like there was potentially a bunch of waste in there anyway.
Well, I mean,
I think Square, I know both were run by Jack, but Jack has control of Square in a way that he absolutely did not on Twitter. And like, you know, I always used to, like, I told him this, but like I would always see him in Twitter as being like almost like an Oscar Schindler sort of character, where you're just trying to get done like what you can. You have no control here. You have like an outcome you'd love to see. The thing that's happening is completely at odds with what you want to see happen, but you're still in there trying to like make the best of it somehow. Maybe that's the sort of thing that people don't like being used as an example these days. But it always had that vibe of like just trying to get on. You're kind of the CEO, but you're not really. Whereas I think in Block, like, he is more the CEO, although I don't think his style is really to dictate to anybody what they should do.
I think you naturally just inherit a lot of these companies' bureaucracies as well as you go through M&A and start bolting in new companies into the group. So I'd say it's probably a bit uneven across that group, just generally. But I think the animus is going to be like, let's just say, like, you know, the technology is there to go and do all this stuff now, which we believe it is. I honestly think for most companies, the animus will be driven by the lure of like a 20% upside the moment they announce it.
Yeah, like
that's the thing, right?
I mean, that now makes this more likely to happen on a larger scale. Like it de-risks it somehow. Somebody like a big public company has gone first. I mean, I haven't really checked.
Well, there's been a few. I mean, there was WiseTech locally as well in Australia. They laid off like 2,000 people. They had a little jump. I can't remember what the jump was, but you know, it's like a knee-jerk reaction now straight away. And you just think for most of these public company boards, it's like, well, okay, we may as well, at the very least, use the technology as air cover to just go and clear up the waste and inefficiency in the business and just say it's AI. at the very least, because I doubt many of these companies have figured it out. I mean, I'd say like Block is they're probably an exception, in that like Jack is behind the wheel, he's at the wheel, so I feel like they're right on top of this stuff. But I reckon a lot of companies probably not, and they're just going, well, we could probably get rid of a little bit of the waste.
I mean, I think if you've gone to the extent of creating your own agent tools, over a year ago, you're going to be somewhat at the front.
Exactly.
Yeah, you've been pushing this for a long time. So yeah, I think that it makes a lot of sense to me that has happened. It makes a lot of sense to me that we'll see it going forwards. Like, maybe it was a bit of a surprise to see it on such a big company so soon. As I said, I guess the bits where I think it is a surprise would be the I think it's hard to do this.
Yeah.
As a big company, and it probably depends a little bit on where you are as well. This is probably easier in the US than it would be, because we always say, okay, we're in Perth in West Australia. Perth in West Australia is a resource-rich state, and almost everything in the state is resources or a derivative of. Right? There's the service industry helps out the large miners and the large oil and gas companies and so on. But because of that, like, those companies employ an awful lot of people in the state. And so if like one of those companies suddenly decides to make a 20% change, that's like a significant impact on the voter base, in that state, never mind anything else. And so all of a sudden, I think a lot of those things, like the jobs, are very political at that point. So I would be surprised if, say, Rio Tinto can adequately just shove. I mean, they're making constant cuts.
Yeah.
I remember talking years ago, over a year ago, to friends about coming AI wave and how it might impact them, and they said, look, it's not even that. We're already trying to cut constantly because of Simandou Mine coming on board.
Yeah.
This is just going to add to that.
They're also very high paying jobs.
Yeah. Yes, true. And also, having worked there, most people do nothing. A lot of people do nothing. There's a lot of that. In all of those organisations. So,
I think Australia is also it has this I won't say unique situation, but it's certainly a world leader in this respect. But it's a growing,
having lots of fat to cut.
Well, it's got an incredibly large public service relative to the working population now.
Insanely so.
And I don't think that's necessarily going to shrink. So I think you've got an issue there where your share of the working population in the public service is going to grow just by virtue of the private sector going and slashing a bunch of jobs. And that is problematic.
Yeah, that doesn't give me any great joy.
Yeah.
To think that.
Because we're already a world leader in terms of the percentage of public servants that we have in this country. And we've got 28 million people or something like that. And it's a pretty substantial.
Isn't it close to 50% already?
Yeah, it's already around there. Yeah,
which is insane.
I did see a comparison to
so you
Japan.
have half of the population.
Yeah.
Paying not only their own tax, but the other half of the population effectively doesn't pay tax because they are paid from tax. So even if you you have half the population paying for everything, which is insane.
But it's also challenging from a policy setting perspective.
Yeah.
The ripple effects of this will be painful, I think. So there is that.
Yeah, I don't know if I need to go down all my views on.
We don't need to, no. But I just think it's one of those elements which will just rear its head at some point.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. So there's that.
So we expect this to happen. We expect it's going to be very political in some places, and some places it'll be easier.
Yeah.
But maybe what we were discussing in the pod before the pod. Oh, shout out to DJ, friend of the pod.
Excellent.
Almost forgot. He was sending me pictures of his new Mac Mini and asking about Wingman. So yeah, just keep sending me messages. I'll help you out there. A little shout out for you. Yeah, where were we? Yeah, in the pod before the pod.
Yes.
The
pre-pod.
Yeah. The pod before the pod. PBTB.
I mean, that should just be our test recording. You know that, right? We could just go out, do the test recording, have a chat.
And release it.
Then release it, just for the members.
100,000 sat boosts. Okay, I'll ask Wingman. Wingman, when you're reading this, there's a little project for you.
There you go.
All right, there you go. So, what were we saying was, in the pod before the pod, the PPTP. The pod before the pod. We were just saying, like, it's interesting to, like, maybe think through some analogies that aren't. So, because the problem always with these sort of big shifts in technology is oh my god, the thing that exists now no longer will exist or will change, or woe is me, whatever will happen, like all jobs are dead, like no job could possibly take it, there's no other gap to fill, like, and it's just it never seems to work out that way because there's almost like an insatiable desire of like problems to solve and things to do and to make better in the world. And often it's just really hard to think into this future that doesn't exist yet. So I was saying, like, there's maybe a good analogy here around like publishing, where we could run back hundreds of years and have this situation where, you know, publishing used to be, the technology for publishing was a room of monks that you had taught painstakingly over decades to learn to write. And then they copied, like, line by line books, and therefore you had a book and it was like the Bible and maybe a few more classics that exist, and that's basically it, because it's so labor intensive to produce and publish anything. And then obviously we had a printing press, and this was huge and allowed anybody to get their ideas out there and to distribute them to various people, and that was a massive win for society. And what we did is we created all sorts of new types of things, from like newspapers and so on, and then we had like better publishing techniques and digital publishing techniques, where all of a sudden we could print more and more and more, and we got more mass media, and we invented magazines and things that were a bit more throwaway that we would publish. We would have, you know, we wouldn't necessarily just print books now, we would have just like, you know, papers or free stuff and leaflets and advertising, and then we put all that on the internet, and it went effectively to zero as a cost. And then even when the technology took it to zero, society probably took another 10-15 years to adjust to this notion that publishing of content had effectively become close to free. And so actually nobody has a job publishing content anymore. So that's the story. There is nobody actually makes any money or has any job or any business that relies on publishing, because the cost is free. So yeah, I guess it does take all the jobs and the cost drops. Oh, hang on, no. Oh shit. Sorry, I forgot.
Yeah.
I forgot. There's that guy, isn't there?
Yeah.
Rogan, or I don't know, Cooker Thompson.
Yeah.
Or like, I don't know, who else have we got? Like, those all-in guys probably make money from
they probably do.
As if they need it.
Yeah.
Like, lots of people publish stuff. You know, some people, like great people,
we're
like
publishing
us,
right
just
now.
Publish shit for free.
Yeah.
Like, whether you want it or not. And other people do it for a business. So it turns out that you can still make money in that area, even though the cost of the production of the thing went to zero effectively over time. And this wasn't even that it went to zero in the sense that, like, oh, anybody can now publish a small handwritten pamphlet or a big, like, leather-bound book. It was like, no, you can get your word out to anybody on the planet instantly for a cost of about like $10 a month, all rolled in, and you can do it every day.
Yeah.
And I was like, and you can include video, and you can include audio, and you've got like just all the bandwidth in the world.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah. So that was a pretty drastic improvement in publishing quality, like improvement in bandwidth, like dropping of the cost, dropping of the access, and everything. And what happened is more people will do that as a job now than have ever done it before in the past.
Yeah.
So what you have done is you've fragmented a few power centers where previously you had something that was available to, you know, a few large publishing houses and a few large newspaper magnates that would then control that opinion and like what gets said in place, and because they were the only places that could publish these things, which you could say is somewhat synonymous with, you know, like say a large software house or something like that, or a large tech company or a big tech platform, and it feels like they're absolutely unassailable and nobody could ever approach this because who would listen to them? You know, they don't have the standing of the New York Times where they've lied to you for hundreds of years. But yeah, it turns out that you could assail them, and technology just did the job for us. And I just think there's a really strong parallel there to say, well, maybe that's just what happens here with, say, software. So everybody thinks right now that nobody will write software anymore, and we will just be out of jobs, and there will be no more coders, or there'll be like 10 coders writing libraries and nothing else. Whereas the reality is probably that writing code looks different in this world because the tools have changed. You might not do as much handcrafting as code. You might do some. You might choose where you want to get involved. But it's probably going to carry on, and then you're not going to, instead of not having it, you'll probably just have absolutely fucking tons of it. And there'll be way, way more like indie businesses and like one-man bands, and maybe some people that publish themselves and they go to everybody and they have like huge distribution. They'll be like your Joe Rogan, and then there'll be like your niche podcast type person that you listen to, where you get their software because you know them and it just meets your situation exactly where you're at.
Yeah.
And I think like in the same way that people like to read like news and opinions that match who they are and where they're at, I think we will see exactly the same across many different forms of life. That's what happens when you drop the barrier to entry and you make it cheaper to compete, is you just get more competition.
Yeah, I think the other aspect to this is the distribution element, right? Because I think there's still a baked-in assumption that people think, oh, well, you're never going to get the kind of distribution effect that you would from like a large tech company. They've got those, you've got that massive reach. And I think the key though is that you just don't need it anymore. Like the economics have shifted. You can just have like something that supports yourself really well. And actually you could probably do quite well and be quite well off from serving a pretty small niche that aligns with you, your values, whatever you happen to be distributing. I mean, like in the same way that you might think, oh yeah, but the Bibles that are being like painstakingly crafted at Lindisfarne back in the day. You'd go
good,
like, how
good
far?
Niche references there.
Very niche.
Yeah.
But like the thing is, right? Like that's still inside of the church as a massive network effect. So it isn't actually all that obscure because they can go and distribute that really widely because it is just like an incredible network. I'm kind of like, where are the heretics? How are they publishing? How are they getting their content, the material out, right? Because they're actively fighting against those like network effects. And so they had the resistance that they had to like speak into. I think that still exists, but I also think now because all of those like barriers have fallen away, you can just find your cohort, your niche to go and serve.
I think this is why you get that feeling of like just like progressively more exponential change, if you know what I mean. Like I think there is a thing with exponentials where they always feel the same at every point. Like it's always like effectively the same rate of change.
Yeah.
And like how it's steepening, but it just feels more wherever you are at a particular point in time because of the nominal change. But it's like we're building exponentials on exponentials here, where we've already had this sort of like the publishing revolution has effectively happened, and that's solved. It's not solved, like that's probably the wrong word, but it made it simpler and cheaper to get that distribution yourself.
Yeah,
like that's been effectively taken away out of the hands of the church. There's still choke points in it. It could be better. Noster solves a lot of this, but we're not getting into tech details today. Decided.
Having the week
So
off.
we'll ignore that until next week, where we'll go hard. Well, we'll bring on friend of the pod, Deadman.
Yes.
We're likely to drift that way, so we won't worry about it this week.
That's right.
So that helps with a lot of that stuff. But I think, again, that's where like this is now becomes like this is going to give you like exponential leaps in productivity. It's going to allow you to do more. And then the things that you do, you already have available to you this more open publishing dynamic. It would be harder to do this like if there were no, if everything was still controlled by the church to publish ideas, would this take? It probably would still happen. It would be like marginally slower because the first thing we'd probably do is then invent all the communication networks to get the message out.
Well, we still have like state-based power that dictates what can and can't spread. That's true. That has not gone away.
If anything, it's decided to try harder in the last few years.
Yeah. So I think you're always finding that some. But as I say, like that's maybe more of an issue for the people that have like greater distribution, like your Joe Rogans and whatnot. If you step out of line, you're more likely to get smacked down at that scale. Whereas if you're like our scale with our friends of the pod, no one's going to worry about. It's just not worth the effort.
It's not.
I love how we can be disparaging about our own podcast.
I like the podcast.
We've got new elements in the graphic.
Exactly. Look at this
growth.
production. Like we've been talking about it for
It's growth
a
and
year,
development.
and now
Finally.
we finally got around.
Also, by the way, it's not just what you see.
Yeah, there's a better
on screen.
setting. That's true.
There's actually like a whole new bit of infrastructure that supports this. We can generate sprites on the fly for you.
I am
you
looking
guests.
forward to the sprite generation.
It's good.
Not being like a fuck.
So
We need some sprites tomorrow.
So janky.
Sort of moment.
It was very manual, wasn't it? Like I'd have to like open up Canva as well and start clipping it to make sure it was the right size, and it's
which
painful.
this,
Brutal.
we just don't.
We just
it's
don't
like
do
get
that.
close enough so
Yeah.
people float
Some
around.
people-
I mean, I like it that people float around on the chairs.
That's
how
it.
it should be.
Some levitating going on.
But if we just can say, oh, this person looks like this,
Yeah.
we should be able to. Maybe we can feed in a photo and have it.
I can.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, all of it's done. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's a standardized prompt. It's
Yeah.
the same prompt that we used to generate our sprites back in the day, because I wanted that character consistency. And then you can throw in an image, and then you've got a bunch of presets, and you just like answer the questions about like describing the character. That will align with the image, and then it's
But
pretty
you have to
accurate.
answer the questions.
Yeah, you can.
So
I mean,
we could then have the
you can leave it blank.
thing, like read the image and then.
Yeah, you can leave it blank. It still
Yeah.
works.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Just if you want to like really
Okay, so
dial
you
it
can
in.
direct,
Yeah.
like, what shirt they're wearing. Okay.
Exactly.
All right. Oh, maybe I'll try and
Have a
mine
play.
as well.
Yeah, have a
Nice.
play.
Nice.
So there we go. That might be as technical as we get on this week's pod, potentially. But yeah, I think that's.
So we just put a producer out of work. Oh, shit.
damn it.
Like, but that's
Another highly paid position gone.
Yeah. God, it's fucking AI.
We're just saving so much
taking all
money
the
and other
jobs.
stuff. Yeah.
But
But yeah, so I think that's directionally correct, and I think the thing that's going to be like a massive stimulus for this happening in the short term is just going to be the prospect of being able to get a 20% increase in your share price. Do you know what, actually, just while we're talking about share prices, little side quest here. When we, I think it was like maybe episode 2 or 3 of this pod, we talked about Duolingo. Do you remember that conversation?
oh yeah.
It was like $500 at the time of the stock price. Now it's like around 100, dropped just below 100. I was like, I need to go back and listen to what we talked about, because I feel like we were talking about how like a company like that doesn't need that many people.
Yes, I was trying to remember earlier, like what was the company
context,
we talked about where we said, like, I could almost rationalize it with Block, because I'm like, you're so many different companies. Like, I kind of get why there's a certain scale.
Yeah.
But I feel like Duolingo is probably a similar size, and I'm like, but you're literally just an app that does the language, and I don't know. I mean, part of that is just other people's like jobs and work is always just seems like it should be way simpler to you when you don't know all the pains and intricacies.
That's
I
true.
think. But it did feel like it was the wrong size of company. I remember they had.
Yeah.
I think we brought it up. Maybe there were
talked about it.
1,000 or
I can't remember,
5,000 people. It was.
Something like
I
that.
feel like it came up and it was like, oh, that's way more people than I would think you need to do this as a
Exactly.
job.
Yeah.
Where,
But I mean, if you go from like $530 a year ago to, 101 today,
yeah,
that's
that's a
decent old drop.
That's like a Bitcoin bear market.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's the other reason. But I do think like a lot of companies are just going to potentially use this as air cover to just go and shed a bunch of staff anyway.
Possibly. I mean, it almost doesn't matter if they do. That's now just like one more thing
It's baked in.
that's like becomes an option for these guys. And the more of these things that suddenly become like, all right, well, it could be that AI takes the jobs. It could be that you can just use it as air cover.
Yeah.
It could be that, everybody else is cutting, so you have to cut. But like, there's a bunch of like trends that make you go, okay, like I think more bigger companies are going to start cutting quicker. Let's say quicker. I kind of thought it was like a 5-year runway, and we're a year in. So maybe it is
Also,
about the time that you'd expect to start seeing these.
As you say, like Jack's right out ahead of this.
True.
So it might well be that this is just an early mover, and we don't really see this trend pick up too quickly.
But it wouldn't surprise me,
wouldn't
say,
surprise
in
me,
another year to see big movements. And you have seen, like Google, Amazon, there's been just a spate of like hiring freezes and offloading people. And I know like this gets discussed on, like say All In.
All in.
Every now and again, and Zach said, oh no, it's got nothing to do with AI. And it's like,
Yeah, I think his example was that Anthropic had a job opening for like a software developer for like $500,000 or something at the moment. That was his counter argument to it.
Well, I mean, there definitely will be software developers.
Yeah, exactly.
I find it hard to get to, like, someone like Anthropic is still in there just fucking money up against a wall stage.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, do they have a job opening? Who cares? It's not really indicative of like long-term job prospects because they're currently in there. We're just going to pump this full of money till we get to our extraction phase. Whereas I think someone more like a Google or an Amazon, like they're done. They're in their cash cow phase. Mm-hmm. So if they're looking to get rid of people, I would see that as more of a signal of what's more likely to happen in the broad economy. But then maybe if we go back to our like, I don't know, publishing analogy here, like I think that is instructive of saying like it's because like most people don't create software, so it's always a bit obtuse. Whereas like I think everybody knows how to write stuff down or talk for the most part. Like we're in a reasonably well developed economy. I would think that's true.
Yeah.
But like if you're listening to a podcast, you know how to listen to stuff. So that's
true.
Like, good on you.
You're ahead of the game.
Well done. It's 50-50. You've already on. So you can maybe it's easier to just like get a feel for that to say like if this has become available to anybody that wants to do it.
Yeah.
And we probably all know people that have done media and podcasts or have written blogs or like in most companies will do it, and a lot of them don't go anywhere, and some do, and some are useful in other ways, and some you just do for whatever reason. But it's what you did see is lots more of the thing. So it makes sense that you're going to see a lot more software. But there's also probably more, I would be curious, like if there's more money spent on media than there ever has been before as well.
Define media.
I'm thinking in
like
the sense that if there's more like just media being published and like content
production-wise
out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of it is free. But I wonder if people are more likely to spend money on this than they had done previously. In the sense that, like, say, one of the things with Silicon Valley stuff is that they will pump projects up for free or close to free to get you in the door, and then they enter this extraction phase where they just charge you money for them. Like, I wonder if there's an analogy there in the publishing space that we pumped out like tons and tons of content, made it effectively free to publish. There's all the free content you want, and yet more people now pay for like subscriptions to Substack blogs or Patreon.
Yeah. Subscriptions
for people or anything else.
He's seeing that disintermediate a little bit.
Value to value.
Yeah.
Even we get like zaps every now and again.
This is true.
Feel free to zap us on Fanzine app.
That's right.
Or just go on Nostr and find us.
Buy some coffee.
Yeah. But
whereas in the past, like you'd have like concentration of, let's say, subscriptions in New York Times, Wall Street Journal,
and it kind of reminds me of the comment we had like a couple of podcasts ago, which is everybody keeps, so like we bash all in all the time.
Yeah.
But they'll always like bang on about the one-man billion-dollar company, and it's like that's like old school thinking.
Yeah.
Like that's like there's going to be a one-man publishing empire.
Yeah.
That is, and so maybe there is. Maybe that's like Joe Rogan is the new New York Times sort of thing. He has the reach. He has like a brand. He's like, and there's maybe 10 of these across the spectrum for different groups. But then there's also like 100,000 other people that just make a really good living doing the same thing.
Yep.
It's like a main source of income of theirs is to publish podcasts once a week, and they've got a bunch of people that listen because people like listening to that particular niche voice.
Yeah.
And that matches this kind of like, it's not a one-man, $100 billion company. There's a way more like 21 millionaires.
Exactly. I was just going to say like the billions standard, like that flag in the ground has always been a bit obtuse. I think if you're an individual, like this is just an abstraction.
Yeah.
So could you have businesses that just emerge? Like the other thing is like the the 0-person business is something that we were talking about over the weekend. It's this idea of like, could you like have a small business where you've like so perfectly mapped out all of the functions and processes and systems inside that business where you could essentially assign those things to agents in a containerized way, so that there's like, you know, not too much autonomy where the agent, like this is the kind of the downside with something like OpenClaw. There's almost like too much autonomy when you would otherwise have like a lot of processes predefined inside the business. It's like, can you just go and set up, you know, a bunch of agents with pipelines that they just run with a set of triggers and scripts, and then that's your business.
Yeah.
How much work do you actually need to do in that business? And, you know, look, there are always going to be elements of these businesses that you're going to have to get involved with yourself. I think, like, I'm not sure where there is just one pure example of a business that you could just completely outsource to an agent. But
I mean, I
or
feel
whether
like
you'd want to.
there's always been businesses that you can outsource.
Yeah.
Frankly, like it's, you know, like I used to love Tim Ferriss books back in the day. Like it's, you know, that whole thing is about, look, you can run these things more or less on autopilot if you keep it very simple and you have a very simple output for what you're doing, and then your problem just becomes distribution.
Yeah.
And like, how do people know about you? Why would they buy from you as opposed to anybody else?
Which is something that I'm saying, like, you may want to own that because people buy from people. And I think, like, you even see this in like big enterprises now. They're all trying to like kind of humanize their branding and get some people to become influencers inside of the business. And a lot of these kind of trends emerge because the media landscape is shifting as well. The authority is built into people, not necessarily this big institution.
Yeah. Which is interesting, right? Because this has come on the heels of distribution becoming effectively free.
Yeah.
Is all of a sudden now you have to develop your own personal brands and people inside your business instead of just bollocking on that, like, you're this brand and you're this way. It's like, no one believes that anymore. Everybody defaults back to the more human aspect of the thing. So do you see the same with technology, software, writing, media output? So it's like, I will only trust this where there's a more human aspect to it, because I now value that higher because it's rarer in what's getting produced. Who knows?
I think there's definitely an element of this, for sure.
I mean, the bit to me is that, like, the work never really goes away because the work and the job is that of competition. So if everybody can just produce like any software for free, well, then the downstream effect of that is, well, who produces the software and who buys it from whom? Because I could buy it from anybody, but I'm not going to buy it from anybody and everybody at the same time. So I'm only going to buy from one person. So there's still a decision to be made. So in absence of everything else, like, how would I make that decision? And again, I think that probably defaults back to, all right, well, where do I have a connection with this person and how? And like, what level of trust do I have that they are going to deliver on what they say? You know, we still inherently have trust problems and time problems left in society, and like, how are we going to market and approach all this stuff? So that hasn't gone away.
I think this is something I like for small businesses as well. Like, you can take something that is otherwise a cost in the business and turn it into something that could potentially generate revenue for you. But you don't necessarily, like, say you're a plumbing business, right? Or maybe this is a bad example. Let's say you're an HVAC business. We use the HVAC because we like using it. It comes up often. It's the new drinking game on the pod.
Andy said HVAC.
You probably aren't going to develop a piece of software and sell it to other HVAC companies. I just think these guys are all competing heavily against one another. They're probably less likely to be like, you know what, you should own this space. Like, we'll just buy it from you. But you could develop something that your asset managers need. They're all of your clients, and you sell it to them. And all of a sudden, you've taken, like, part of a service that you were doing manually was a cost in the business because it required time and labor and capex and whatnot as well. And all of a sudden you've gone, let us go and, like, we'll digitize this and we'll sell it back to our clients because it's something that adds value to them. And so now all of a sudden you're going and just you're increasing the amount of services you provide to your existing clients. I think that is like a more logical outcome. You don't need to be a tech company to go and do that now.
Exactly. You were just the right place person that could understand that's an option. You know, there's a problem there that nobody else gave a shit about.
Yep.
There's not, like, you know, you don't hear this on All In every week where they go. Like, the big problem in the world right now that no one's addressing is asset management in air conditioning companies and the effects of how we manage towards a reduced carbon offset globally. It's like, no, nobody's...
Yeah.
No one's thinking about that.
Yep.
Except for a small niche group of people that really are thinking about that.
Then they really understand it.
And that this is true in like every sector of the economy, and that those people could never do anything about it, or if they did, it was going to cost them millions of dollars in capex and research fees to do it. And now it doesn't have to.
Yeah.
So the flow-on effect of that is that more people can solve more problems.
Yep.
So the only thing I think we need to worry about is, have we solved all the problems?
Well, we're not aware of all of the problems, you know, that's the thing.
I don't think so. Yeah.
We're like, you know, this is the classic, like, podcaster's dilemma, isn't it? It's like, you're just like pontificating on like all of this stuff. There you go, that's for dead man. Said the word pontificate.
Yeah.
You know, we don't know. I mean, that's the classic example is that HVAC company. I mean, all of a sudden that goes from a local HVAC company to a global technology player inside of asset management, because they might just have solved a problem that is useful in assets everywhere, because it seems like everyone all over the place is legislating for carbon emissions. So it seems like this kind of a solution would be valuable everywhere. And now all of a sudden your business has like a global footprint. So there's that kind of opportunity, as well as like the other opportunity is just going, hey, but we operate in Perth. This problem, not the same problem, but a different problem, is unique to our clients in Perth. We'll just go and solve that for them. And we don't need to necessarily go and outsource this to, you know, a bunch of developers. Or it's also just like a limiting belief, because you're like, oh, that's not our game, right? We're HVAC technicians. We're not software developers.
Yeah.
And that in the past, I think, would just obstruct any kind of progress.
Well, it kind of reminds me of that story we had the other day about like the Friggy in Perth that was liked tinkering, built a better pump for the air conditioner, and now has retired his bloodline forevermore. Yeah. It's just like, you know,
exactly.
These are, it's like the Wright brothers were like bicycle mechanics, and just spent a lot of time. They had a vague interest in flying. But they were really tinkerers and experimenters with stuff. Like if you ever read Matt Ridley's book on What's the Future, like how ideas sort of build upon each other and then become new things, and then like this is really how we get discoveries. Like it all comes from a tinkerer that is just like motivated enough and like just capable enough in like often a space outside of their space. Yeah, they can really make a breakthrough. So like the idea now that, you know, we think that we've like, I don't know, somehow solved software or something, but then we haven't actually given any of the functional experts the ability to do this. Yeah, it's like, nah, it's gonna get nuts. Yeah, like we're gonna solve so many problems that have just never had any time and attention before, that everything is gonna get like smoother and cheaper and simpler and more efficient, like just everywhere. Which is great. Like that, and that will leave us with more problems, because it's all we do. We live in a world and experience things that aren't quite to the liking that we can imagine. Like that's our job as humans. Seemingly, is the thing we're good at is bitching and going, this isn't quite right. Fuck it.
I can do this.
I'm gonna do this.
Yeah.
It's like you experience something, but you experience something that's different to everybody else, depending on where you put yourself in the world and like what your daily routine is and your job. Like I would never have invented a new air conditioning pump, because I just don't care and look at it, and I don't know how to. Like there's all sorts of reasons why I wouldn't.
Well, we're so far removed from that being a problem, but this was a particular problem for this person, and that was a problem they had to deal with in their day-to-day existence all the time. So it kind of makes sense, you know, they are like a custodian of that particular problem. Yeah. But that's an outlier, because most Friggies are not going to go and do that. And that's when you've got these like, I mean, there's lack of motivation for the most part. It's like, you'll still get a lot of people who'll just be like, this is my job, this is my domain, I'm just going to do this, and that's fine. But you will just get other people who'll be like, oh, I can go and solve this problem over here. But I do think it starts with using the tools inside your business. Because if you start to use them inside your business, all of a sudden, like, and we've experienced this firsthand.
Yeah.
Once you start solving a bunch of problems for yourself, you're like, oh, I could go do a bunch of things here.
Yeah.
And that's when you start to extrapolate out and you keep pushing the boundary of where you thought you could get to.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be interesting.
This is where the thing to experiment, I think, with these tools is to solve your problem, not to necessarily just like do your job.
Yes.
It's like, if it's just like, there's something that you could do, and then this thing could do it, and then you're arguing whether it's better than you or not, it's like, it's kind of, it's a little bit less interesting. Whereas if you've got a problem that you couldn't do, and now you can, that hits harder.
Yeah.
You know, it's like with the software thing, right? If you already could create all this software, it doesn't feel so as magical as when you couldn't. If you could never do this, and now you can do it quite reliably, you're like, well, fuck. Like it's like having like 2 new arms, sort of thing. But
I think the bit that's going to be interesting here, though, is like how the interface changes. Because like anyone could build, like, I mean, we do this with our workshops, right? Like anyone could build Kanban app. It's like, is the Kanban, like in this case, I think we know the answer, but it's like, is the Kanban the right interface for the agent? Because we're just going to have this mass proliferation of agents. And so then you have to start thinking about, okay, what interfaces are we building that are like natively efficient for agents, not natively efficient for humans, which is the way we've built software in the past. And like, then that opens up a whole new way of thinking about it.
And like what's the bit at the boundary?
Yeah.
Which I think is the big question, is like, how the fuck do you work with these things?
Yeah.
So for instance, this morning I had so many things on my review tab from Wingman that the first task I gave it was to review my review tab and to tell me like, all right, I want you to like review and tick off anything that's just obviously done and tested. Because I've been using these things for a couple of days. I just don't have time to close everything out in the review, then get rid of them. Like they're done. They shouldn't be in the tab. Anything that's like in the review tab that doesn't have enough evidence, like send it back to yourself with a note that you need to add evidence to it, because I'm not wasting my time on it. And anything else, like just then give me like the top 3 things that I really need to look at, and any question that I need to answer, and then anything else that you're comfortable with, just close it out.
Yeah,
it's done. Nothing's broke. And it went away and did that, and then just I had it generate a report, and I was like, okay, I want a report like this every day.
Yeah.
And this needs to be there when I wake up, so that I can see like everything that got changed yesterday, and I can review it, and I can keep it in mind. And I'll just like throughout the day, I'll effectively be testing by using all these tools, and we just go from there.
Yeah.
But it was effectively me then going like, my Kanban board is too busy.
Yeah.
So like yes it works, like yes it's useful as a means of like, you know, working together and keeping track of stuff, but fuck me, there's something else that needs to be running on top of this. So there's more rules that need to be discovered.
I feel like this is also an opportunity for guys who are like software developers or like UX designers. Like, how are you guys thinking about, like, instead of kind of like thinking, oh, like I'm not gonna have a job, it's like, well, how are you thinking about designing interfaces that are agent native? That, you know, because there's going to be a bunch of this stuff where, you know, the way we've designed these interfaces in the past that are very self-serving or help a bunch of people push data through a pipeline basically, and surface insights at like the right moment, like, well, that's kind of no longer necessary for us. So how are we rethinking this and re-architecting it so the agent can just be more efficient and get us the bits that we need when we need them?
I mean, it's like how I never really, like when OpenClaw first came out, I was saying like, there's a lot of excitement here about how you can like talk to your bot in WhatsApp. Yeah. But having done that like a year or two ago, I wasn't interested in doing that.
Yeah.
You know, I tried it and I was like, oh shit, no. Yeah. No way. Like, and I think it's not as bad in OpenClaw because you get more summaries through WhatsApp. Yeah. But there's just too much to consume in that sort of single-threaded chat interface. Like, it's just not the way to do it. It's okay for updates and stuff, but you shouldn't be doing anything meaningful in it. same with like Discord and Slack. And like,
Yeah.
it's like, no, I kind of want there to be a chat somewhere else. I can go into it if I want.
Yeah.
But like, there's like levels of everything. Like, there's a full suite of tools for organizing. And this is like where I found myself with the. I think I'm just going to call it co-work. I don't like the. It's such a better name than the console
Co-work,
thing. I
yeah.
think, unfortunately. So I'm probably going to end up going by that.
Yeah.
Okay. But that's like
Yes.
just business on it. But yeah, it's got Kanbans. It has chats and channels and threads and DMs. It has like a CRM, like it has a doc site. It's like it has voice notes backwards and forwards and stuff. It's like there's all these different ways of like, all right, these are all shared spaces that we consume together, and you need to be able to read all of them.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I want a document, and if you send me a document, it should be a document, so I can edit it and feedback.
Yeah.
If you're just giving me like an executive summary, just stick it in the chat and format it nicely. I can read it there. If you're giving me like an update on a task, there should be a task on a board, but I know its position. It should be a note on the task on the board.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, and even like trying to train like the agents to just be like consistent in how they deal with that is hard.
Yeah.
So, I think that kind of these are like the areas of tension at the moment. So you see it in OpenClaw when we're talking in the pod before the pod.
Yes.
The friend of the pod before the pod. We were saying like there's a lot of people like getting really excited about OpenClaw and then getting a bit disillusioned with OpenClaw where they suddenly realise that it's just too much.
Yeah.
It's like, I can't do anything with this. I feel like I've bought myself a team of people to piss me off again.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't want that. Like, I wanted a robot that just did my bidding.
Yeah.
And it usually, I think part of the problem there is, and you alluded to it earlier, was like the amount of autonomy or not. Like, I actually don't think, like, it's kind of magical when these things just work autonomously.
Yeah.
It feels like they're not there yet for whatever reason. Like, I think it's probably just the context management. This is an area I've been kind of exploring with Wingman a little bit. It's like, it's hard for them to know where to focus and what to do and how to carry a project over time and various things like that. And they work incredibly well when they're steered. But like, there's a difference between saying like, go a long way over there and saying, okay, we'll take these steps and then this step and then this step. And if you're willing to put the effort in to take the steps, then it works really well. Now, I think, like, again, like, just throwing away, you know, big project instructions from WhatsApp or something, it isn't a great environment to do that. But,
you don't want to be steering from WhatsApp. WhatsApp as an interface should also almost just be like a quick status update or a snapshot. Just let me know you're on track. Like, that's how we would use it. You know, I'm not going to go and dump like a massive like.
Yeah, like, I mean, we as in like me and you.
For you and me, yeah. You know, I'm not going to be like, hey, Pete, here's like
there's a 10-page document,
like, read it.
copied and pasted into WhatsApp.
That's just not how we work. Yeah. You know, this is something I was thinking about on the weekend a lot, because obviously Lara now lives, something I like spruiked last week, I think. But it's like, you just don't need that degree of autonomy in the business, because most of these businesses have like pretty well established processes or pipelines. And so, like, the way I was thinking about this, obviously we use it in our business. Like, what are all of the operational bits that we just have to do that could be on rails? And so I'll give you an example. Like, the first one I came up with was like the standard like podcast processing pipeline, right? And so essentially Lara's just there as an interface. Like, I call her a chief of staff, but she has staff. But not all of her staff are like agents. Some are just pipelines or scripts. And like, I've called them hands. So Lara has a bunch of hands, and like the key thing for her is just to know which hands to use at which time. So I'd started with this podcast processing pipeline, and so, like, you know, the quick overview is it would pull the video from YouTube. It would download the video from YouTube after it's been published. That just uses the like channel ID and RSS, so it just knows when like the latest video's been released. It pulls that. We'll transcribe it, and then like it will just go through all of the steps. It's going to like go and identify like which which bits of the transcripts would make interesting reels, and then you go and chop those up, and like this is all like really standard pipeline, and then you've got publishing at the end.
Yeah.
And I was like, even that is too big. That's too many steps. Like really, you've got like 3 hands there, and you just want to compose them down to like their minimal form, and allow Lara to choose like what we're doing here. So the first one is just pull the video, create the transcript, and because the other element here is like cost and auditability. If everything's autonomous, it's like, well, you're just allowing these things to be freewheeling, and you don't really have good cost constraints over stuff that, if it is like fairly deterministic, you probably don't need to allow like full autonomy. You can just run these things as scripts, and then it's like way more cost managed.
Yeah.
But then the other bit is auditability. Like, I want to know which hands you're actually pulling to do which jobs. So the transcript one is interesting because she'll just pull the video, create the transcript, and then that's that hand done. You might have another hand that is then going and trying to find all of the relevant reel-worthy content that it can just like generate in 30-second to a minute clips. But the other hand that I've got is actually taking the transcript and then it's building her knowledge graph. So it's going, because basically Lara needs to be able to speak the way you and I do. So she's got this like rich context of everything that's going on in the business, everything that we offer. She knows about you and I, and all of this stuff is in the knowledge graph. And then the next bit is just to go and like process all of these transcripts and start building out the entities and relationships that actually sit within the graph. And like that's another hand, and that just gets pulled. But like if I just had the one big pipeline, like that's just inefficient.
Yeah, and I think this is what often happens a little bit, because it's kind of how the agents make their own decisions, is that they have a bias for just like working in their own context window versus you have to direct them to create the scripts and the projects. So I think they can do it, but they don't go, oh, I should just do that. They go, oh, I'm going to make a decision. The decision I make is this, and then I'll do this, and I can use this tool. The tool's there, and I can see it. And so I would have this with like Wingman when I first started running it more autonomously. And I would like look at the scripts of like how it wakes up and what it was doing, and I'd be like, that's like wildly inefficient.
Yeah.
And it's kind of partly the skill is like when people say, oh, I downloaded a skill. It's like, okay, it's the markdown document that auto loads that says, do this job like this, and these are your instructions. It's like you just downwrite the prompt, and that goes some way to solving it, but you're still working inside the context window of the agent. Like, whereas like the big wins would be to say, look, I want you to like orient yourself like on wake.
Yeah.
So we're just going to have like a wake up routine, but I'm not going to give it you as a skill, because that's just a set of prompts that hopefully you follow. Instead, the skill just says run sb.js or wake.js or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then that script will go to all the different places that I need you to get information from. So it goes to Nostra, it scans the news, it does the goes to my Superbase and downloads like everything that's changed. It keeps a local copy of everything that it needs inside its like local SQLite database, and then it uploads all the relationships into the graph, and then runs a script like a Cypher query to return from the graph like what's relevant for this context that I'm in, and that can happen in seconds, and it happens every time the same way now, because it's just controlled by that script, and there's just a set of wake scripts that do that. And that was just a massive win for situational awareness of like, okay, it knows what it's doing. Sometimes now it's a bit annoying because it'll do it when it's like, no, I'm just asking you a question. Just do the fucking question. You don't need the wake. But I can deal with it. It's fine. But yeah, and that's been good. But it's the same context. It's like there's a bunch of stuff here that like I think Gigi had it, friend of the pod, I think he talks about building Boris, and Boris was his highlighting tool where you could read along with Boris and you highlight stuff up and it flags it all onto Nostra. And he said, look, it's the thing that hasn't gone away is that you still need to understand what you're doing here. Like if you know how it should be built, you can push it in a certain direction and get what you want out of it. But it's kind of magical that you can do it by talking with these things. And it brings back the fun of building and creating stuff again. But you kind of still need to know and to think about your problem and to break it down on behalf of the robot. I mean, the good thing is you don't necessarily have to break it down into like technical components. It's just you just need to start thinking through it like bit by bit like, what's a minimal thing that you could do, and then just layering on the next thing and the next thing instead of like just trying to. Don't try and one-shot stuff.
Yeah.
It's just like a fake Twitter thing that people say.
Yeah.
People online say things, and not all of it is true.
Yeah. I must admit, like part of the thought process for me was like, let me put myself in like a business owner's shoes. How would they think about just allowing OpenClaw to run riot in the business? I'm already like framing it in a kind of negative maverick kind of way, run riot, like, because you just don't know. And so that's where I was like, well, I don't want to overly constrain these things with a bunch of governance. That feels kind of pointless.
Yeah.
But I also just want, if I have definition around the tasks that I need this thing to do frequently, well, I may as well map this out. Yeah. And it can just be something that an agent calls. Now, some things are really heavily defined and constrained, and other things are not. So like that graph hand is not a pipeline. That's an agent, because it's determining. Like there's an element of like determinism there from reading the transcript and then looking at the graph and going like which parts like bolt in, which parts shouldn't bolt in, and making decisions about that. Now that would feed me a review so that I can like manually approve that graph addition, because otherwise like the graph could just like bloat, and I wouldn't know what's in there, and Lara could just become something completely different. So you kind of want that, again, that's just like auditability. And in the same way, when Lara is performing a role as a like website chatbot, I can see in the back end, just from reviewing the graph, I can like pull up a run and then like inspect that run, and it will show me which parts of the graph Lara has used in her response.
Yeah, I've been having a poke around.
Yeah,
that's good.
It was and that's nice as well. And I was like, oh, that's quite handy, because then I can actually like dive into if she's like just tends to hang around like one part of the graph and not inspect other parts, and
So, because I've been working on a similar thing for Wingman as well.
Yeah.
I've seen where I cooked up a little viewer for it, because I had the same feel, like, because Mark's friend of the pod was talking about Wingman on Tales from the Crypt, TFTC.
Yes.
The other day, and he's like, the way he brought it up was like, it's kind of nice because it gives you software to manage all of your agents, so you can start to see what they're doing.
Yeah.
And one of the nice bits about it, I think, that even when you run it like you would run OpenClaw, where you're just interacting with it via like a chatbot or something else, and you don't see all the details, is that at any point I can go in and look at the run.
Yeah.
And I can look through what it's done and like how it made decisions and audit the whole thing.
Exactly.
And then I can like pull up its graph and go like, well, what connections have you actually got around this subject? Because it's not making sense to me why you're working this way. And you can start to get a feel for it and then understand how to manage it. Which is this could be like, everybody's talk about like, I don't know, prompt engineering as being the next big skill or opportunity or something. I think there could be something here around just like understand it's kind of in the context engineering space maybe. It's just like, how do you, like, what are the tools that tell you how this thing is making decisions and like what it knows when it goes to make this decision? Like, so what is it retrieving from its memory bank, and like why isn't it getting the other thing, and how do you visualize like why this piece of information that you can see is in the memory bank wasn't retrieved when this piece of memory is? Like that's all the trick. And all that stuff is going to get better. It's all tooling, but that's going to be hugely impactful.
Definitely.
It'll feel like the thing got 1,000 times smarter because it just recalls the right thing, or what in your mind is the right thing.
This comes back to
that, you need that observability of the process, and people need to train them to themselves, I think.
Yeah. No, I think it comes back to your like magic analogy as well, like the Sanderson approach. There's like most people looking at this and just like blindly trusting that these agents will do the things they need it to do. And I think this is where the reluctance also builds. And again, I can understand it. Like if I were running a business and my business has been running for 15 years, and it's printing a certain amount of money for me every year and it's dependable, we're in that like fairly consistent part of the business life cycle, I'd be very reluctant to toss it all away. Irrespective of what the opportunity was. I think because you're just like, well, I'm making X amount of money, it's comfortable, it works, like why should I go and toss this right now? And I think for me the answer came back to what degree can you start to predefine the jobs to be done? To what degree can you build out like cost management in as well? Like so like tinkering with like different models for different jobs based on like the model benchmarking, but then also the costs.
Yeah.
That was like an interesting thing to play around with over the weekend as well, and like get it to a point where I was like, okay, this is just not going to bleed money for whoever's running it. And then also have the auditability function in there just to go like, well, this is important so I know what's going on, but also how do I have a set of diagnostics that can help me improve the agent as well over time. And so if you just allow all of these things to run open slather, how do you know what it's doing? How do you know where the inefficiency is? Do you want it to be like pulling from a different part of the graph? Is there a graph? You know, like, do you need one? There were a lot of like little questions I kind of wanted to work through. And I was like, ultimately the graph is less important for me talking to Lara in like staff management mode where we're firing off processes.
Yeah.
But it's more valuable for her as being the customer facing Lara who can sit on an app or a website or something and then answer a bunch of questions. And like she serves we've done this before, but like she serves a function of, let me find out, there's like a bunch of stages. Yeah. So like she starts off by just like qualifying who the lead is, trying to figure out what the business is, what they're trying to do, what they're trying to achieve, and then like align one of our other services to whatever that qualification is. And then ends up with basically just getting to a point where she'd be like, let me grab your details, or let me like book a call in with Peter Randy, something like that. But it's important contextually to have the graph there because she can.
Sorry, it's just when you say Peter Randy, it sounds like our combined name is Peter Randy.
Peter Randy, yes. Well,
that's
a different agent, Pete.
That is. That's our content agent.
That's yeah. Should be done.
Friend of the pod, Peter Randy.
Peter Randy, yeah. So yeah, I think there's something there. I think that's a bit more palatable for a smaller business, rather than just like open clawing your way to.
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, it's the same sort of design principle I had for Everest back in the day, when I haven't really touched that for so long, but it was really a set of pipelines and intent analysis.
Yeah.
So we'd do context, you'd get a question, it would do context gathering, it would understand the conversation that you were in, it would understand what it felt your intent was and whether that intent was mapped to a specific tool or pipeline that it would then flow through.
Yeah.
Same thing Beacon did as well, under the hood. And then, and it would just sit you in that pipeline and complete that pipeline and that mission. And that was almost like a way of having like a little goal persist throughout that conversation, which I think is, you just get a better, you can still inject like little bits of intelligence into that process where they're needed, but often there's a lot of stuff that you could just code it into one of those like hand, like I guess we just call it pipelines, but you're saying the correct terminology appears to be hands.
I don't know.
So
that was something that Wingman told me, to be honest. I was describing it as a pipeline, and Wingman was like, what Lara needs is a series of hands. And I was like, do you know what?
Okay.
You are correct.
Oh, do you think that was like a technical term or an analogy?
I don't know.
You don't even know.
I don't really know. But because what's interesting about it is like, it's not just running pipelines and it's not just running agents. There is like this interrelationship between the two. And I'm not the one calling them.
Yeah.
Lara is. So I have delegated that to. So for instance, like you could take, there's a financial analyst hand that we have for the business, but there's like a deterministic element, which is basically just like reading our like age receivables and stuff like that, and we'll just ping a note saying this invoice hasn't been paid. Yeah, let's ping a note, and then do you want me to follow up with an email to whoever? That is quite a like deterministic process. But then like reviewing the financials and just going like, hey, maybe there's like, you know, a tax opportunity here, or maybe there's like an R&D grant there. Like those are not deterministic. That's where an agent has some degree of autonomy to just work through it and figure it out and reason about it. Yeah. So there are these like combinations, I guess, that exist. It's like, how often do you need to run that? Probably not that often. Yeah. In our case, probably not that often. But in a massive company, you probably want that running fairly regularly because you want to be like spotting those trends early, instead of just like rear view mirroring this with an accountant every, 6 months or 12 months. So again, it's like getting the balance right between the bits that you can audit and are just dependable and repeatable versus the bits that are like, okay, now we need to inject some autonomy, and like empowering Lara to make that decision. It's like, now's the time to run that autonomous sub-agent to check in on the business.
Yep.
And I think that's like going to be interesting for an SME.
Yeah, I mean, I almost wonder if there's like something to be gained here from having like a layer of detachment, where you almost have like a CLI that your agent can call that just says like, you can call this CLI and the things that you provide it are a problem statement and I don't know, like a one-liner of the context. So you say, like, oh, my problem is I don't have any information on blah.
Yeah.
And I do this, and then the next step of this is like a really constrained agent which just selects tools or intent from that. But in some way we hide, like you could put all that into the main agent, but we just hide it behind this little interface and we force it to call the tool by describing its problem in its current context. And then we have another agent which again doesn't see any of the conversation, but then can make that more point decision on like, all right, the thing that I'm now going to use for that is this tool, because this is the best. And those tools might even just cascade to say like, oh, this is a context problem.
Yeah.
Or maybe it goes, oh, it's a context problem and it's a search problem. So I'll kick off a search and I'll kick off a context response and I'll get the two back. And like, there's just this way of like fanning out across all these tools to get all the content and bringing it back that is just like not built yet. But you could sort of see it happening. And I think like you see the seeds of all of this. Yeah. Because it's kind of what you go, oh, MCP is great, and you put all the MCPs into your agent, and you're like, God, there's just a lot of stuff in the context window on boot all of a sudden. Like, it doesn't need to know about every tool. And then people go like, oh, maybe I could have an MCP tool that just selects the tool. Yeah. And you go, yeah, okay, that's the seed of these sort of ideas. And someone goes, well, could I just have, like Cloudflare published about they're removing a lot of their MCP and making it just code. So they're effectively going down like the CLI route. Of saying, like, okay, well, why don't we just say there's a tool that you can use, and then the tool runs and gives you back the context that you need in the CLI, and then you can just call help when you want to read what it does for more information. Yeah. And so all of a sudden you get these like different approaches to abstracting away all the tools in the context. I can see a lot of that. I can see that making like a huge impact, because like sometimes you just need to say hello, and you don't need to spend like 2 minutes picking tools. Yes. But sometimes you do need to spend a bit of time figuring out what you're going to do and collecting all the context and the rest of it. So that's where like OpenAI went in their 5 round of models. Was like, it pissed everybody off originally because they got used to having a model that they knew the name of and they trusted. I think it's gone away now. Yep. Same with Claude. Like when you use Claude Code, it uses all the models, and you don't unless you run it through a router and look at it on the back end and go, okay, what are you actually doing here? You see that it actually uses like many different models to optimize its own cost profile. Yeah. Same in OpenAI. I think when they first did it, they were bad at it, and people got annoyed, and it was like a disjoint from where they were before, where you actively selected the model, and now you don't really. Yeah. You just let it run. You're like, yeah, that's fine. So I can see a lot of this getting to it. And I think the net result of that will be, like in my 2026 prediction is going strong, is that this is all about tooling and less about models. Models will get better, but the tooling is going to have such an increase in perceived intelligence of these things, because they'll just know better context at any moment.
Yeah, and it comes down to like knowing the problems to solve as well. You know, like that's why I was kind of trying to focus on like the operational side as well. Like, could I just pick a bunch of operational problems? Because there's a reasonable chance that most businesses will have a similar set of operational problems.
Exactly.
And then, because I do feel like, I mean, we do this as well. Like a lot of the context within which we speak, it's coding specific. Yeah. And I was like, could we branch out and start showing that a lot of this stuff can be done?
Exactly. So I think we should wrap up soon, because the laptop overheated about half an hour ago. So
jeez. Okay.
Usually it's fine, it'll recover. But we'll see.
We'll find out. None of this may be recorded.
Laptop of the pod. What I was going to say, one thing that's changed for me recently in the last few weeks is seeing a lot more people like come at OpenClaw as this fresh thing and go and just give it these ideas with like no context of how they're going to achieve it, and then it finds a way. I'm like, it's changed my operating principle a little bit, where previously I've not engaged stuff where I'm like, I want to know how we're going to solve this before we start, and I will guide you through it. And then I will sometimes have like my Hemingway somewhere else where I'm like, we're going to talk about it over here, and then I'm going to go and lead you through it. I've been like way more comfortable to just go and do stuff that I don't quite understand. Or it's like, I don't know if you can do this. Like, so last night, I woke up this morning, I put this on Nostr to a daily briefing podcast. I've been sent a link saying, add this to your podcast feed. And I was like, nah, this isn't going to work. And then I added it. And then up pops like a daily briefing, and I press play, and then I get my bot talking to me about like what I've got on for the day and like what my tasks are, and these are the areas we need to focus. And
that's
like,
cool. Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah. Damn.
That's nice. Like I didn't think you could do that, and it was one of those that I wrote on the task board yesterday and just said, figured this out. And then at one point it said, oh, here's a plan. And I was like, no, just do it. I don't.
Knock yourself out. Yeah.
It's okay if this doesn't work. And like, but he's like, I saw like the app is running like in its own Wingman space, so he figured out the CLIs and then set up his own apps and like host them correctly with the URL, and he built the XML feed. And I was like, oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's
that
good
is
on
cool.
you.
That
good
is
on
cool.
you.
Yeah. Well, I've said this to you before. Like that's still like an area of. Although I am learning, it's still like the deficiency for me is knowing what the architecture should be.
Yeah.
So I'm often trusting as well. Like will spend time reviewing it, and I will ask questions, and I will make suggestions every so often. But I still don't know. So this is like the drawback for a lot of people who are non-technical completely.
Let's even know that you can ask these things.
Yeah.
Like, this was an area where I was like, look, this is a one-man podcast feed. I do not care how you achieve this.
Yeah.
But if you achieve it, it will be sweet.
Mm-hmm.
So go and achieve it, and if I need to worry about making it better, I'll do that in the future. But for now, here's a task.
Yeah.
Impress me. And I was like, shit, that's actually pretty good.
I'm impressed.
But it's, and more, then it sparks you on to go, you know what, I could ask it 10 other things that I don't do. Like, I should probably have this thing like scouring. I mean, at the moment, I said before we started this, I was like, look, just go and get all these podcast transcripts and download them into your graph and process them and learn about me. And then I'm going to start asking you questions about this, because I'm like, look, you should be, I should not be writing LinkedIn content.
Yes.
I should be getting a chat message at the start of the day with 3 options, and then I should choose the best one. And I should go, all right, but it will help my publishing stuff. And again, like, who cares if you publish stuff on LinkedIn? It doesn't matter. I mean, a bit shit.
Yep.
I mean, I'll still rewrite it, because that's just
you
how
tweak it, but you just saved like 2 hours.
Yeah, I just don't want to think about it.
Yeah.
It's just, but
exactly.
But if I could spend 10 minutes a day doing this, I'll probably do it, and I'll start getting more stuff out. It's like, oh, generate me some pictures.
Yes.
You know, have it all ready to go. Like, just give me the whole shebang. Like, give me a little video walkthrough.
Yep.
Give me, like,
exactly.
See what you can figure out, and then start doing stuff for me, and then I'll say whether it's useful or not. Give me an app. In fact, it's like, don't give me a chat. Just actually build yourself an app. Host it yourself on Wingman in your account, and then send me the link.
Yep.
And just like, and then I'll have a button that says approve, not approve, and I want to be able to edit the text in Markdown, and then I want you to push it, and we'll just